Welcome to the Athlete Brand Advisor Podcast, featuring advice and interviews about athlete branding. Learn how marketing, public relations, and broadcasting can grow your brand. We also have special episodes to talk about recent news, events, and anything in the world of sports. The podcast is sponsored by Pliable, a versatile marketing, PR, and broadcasting company that identifies opportunities and creates tailored content for its clients. Now it's time to roll. Here's your host, Greg Glynn.
Thanks, and welcome to the Athlete Brand Advisor Podcast. In this episode, we're talking about football. The guy who probably would have benefited from NIL. And his name is Nick Peck. He is a California native and award-winning journalist who has primarily covered the world of finance and law and has garnered significant recognition for his work in the industry. However, before starting his journalism career, Nick earned his degree in communications from Upper Iowa University, where he was a standout football player. And now he has a novel called Only Way Out, and it is his debut novel and obviously something special when it comes to talking about football and obviously his career. So, Nick, welcome into the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, this is great. So what I want to do is obviously with athlete branding, a lot of athletes can do a lot of different things with their brand and, using that athletic career for whatever sport it was to go on and do some pretty cool things. So why don't you walk me through kind of your college career in football, and then if you saw this coming, writing novels.
Yeah, no, I did see it coming, but kind of, tell me like my own little background. So like I initially started out as an offensive lineman in high school, was pretty heavily recruited. And then I had an offer from a school that I won't name specifically, but they called me on sign day. They were like, hey, we gave away your scholarship to someone else. And I was like, what am I going to do? So then, I decided, I'm kind of tired of being 325 pounds and I wanted to lose weight. So I lost about 125 pounds, but continued my football career playing junior college at Mount SAC Junior College in California. During this time, I was like, I think I'm going to teach myself how to long snap too, see if I can prolong my career a little bit longer. Did it that way. I was lucky enough to get a full ride scholarship to do it at Upper Iowa University. And then, as far as novels, I've always loved writing and being a journalist. And, once I transitioned, officially hung up the cleats officially, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. For most people, sports are the dream. But for me, being a writer, being an author has always been my dream. And I just wanted to leverage my career as an athlete to be able to go into what I actually wanted to do, which is, being an author.
Right. So let's talk about the novel and give me, first of all, the reason for the title.
So the title itself, it's loosely based on my own life. So basically it covers this kid named Jalen Pierre, who's a high school senior, and he's looking for a way out of his situation. He's dealing, with poverty, mental health within the household, alcoholism within the household. And he's basically looking for a way out of his situation, hence the title, Only Way Out.
Yeah.
And, he becomes inspired late one night watching a football player documentary on TV, similar to my own story. And, just kind of, takes his journey along, the experience of his first year playing football, his recruitment. There's a love story, of course, in it as well. And then all the other stuff that you deal with, growing up, not the best circumstances, but how you can use sports to leverage yourself out of it.
And obviously, it's personal for you. You talk a little bit about how, some of this is based on obviously what you've been through. Talk to me about, writing the book and how long it took and what your strategy kind of was behind sharing what is kind of some of your athlete story, but, making it relatable.
For me, I think if you've been around athletics enough, the story that I've had and the story that Jalen in the story in my book has is, it's not rare. Most people who are in sports are looking to use sports as their way out. But a lot of people, when you're going through it, they don't, can't relate to it because they think that you're alone. You feel self-isolated when you're going through a lot of trauma. So that's kind of the reasoning behind why I wanted to write the book. And I specifically wrote it, more from the third person point of view too, versus, first person, so that people could kind of put themselves in the shoes of it versus, the first person point of view would be directly myself and,
Right.
those kind of things. But yeah, I mean, as far as writing it, I'm I'm a hustler, super dedicated athlete at heart. So like I'm a journalist is my day job. So, I was waking up at 4 a.m. every single day before work for about 6 months and would just had a goal of writing 10 pages a day. And then eventually had a book, and went and pitched it out to publishers and literary agents, and finally got a contract offer that I was happy with, and here we are. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the things that athletes don't realize is that writing a book is obviously difficult. It's a challenge. I've written one myself. I know exactly what you're going through, and it takes that dedication, I feel like, of an athlete, honestly, to put aside that time. A lot of people say, "Oh, I should write a book. Oh, I've been meaning to do that," right? But I feel like athletes have that discipline. They have the ability to find time and make it a priority. And every athlete has a story. That's the other thing here with this is that if athletes, and I always encourage them to start documenting their story now, because you're going to forget the little things, right, Nick? Like, I'm sure you don't have every detail or you couldn't remember exactly everything, right?
Oh, I mean, I was a football player too, so his brain sometimes is a little scrambled. So definitely not every detail, that's for sure.
Yeah. And so then when, you made the decision to write it, obviously, who are you looking to inspire with this book, or kind of what is the ultimate outcome for you that you'd like to see? And is there maybe a sequel?
Yeah, I mean, as far as who I'm looking to inspire, the story itself is, very raw. And it's not sunshine and rainbows, but I try to do that on purpose because, to me, life isn't perfect. And then also, with art in general, whether it's a painting, a book, or whatever it may be, I think you can feel when stuff is genuine and real. And, most of my story is, not all sunshine and rainbows. So that's why I did it that way. And as far as what I'm looking to inspire, it's just, it's more of my own journey myself of, that I used my own circumstances to build the life and the dreams and chase after those things that I'm looking after. And then, you know, sequel, yeah, like I said, this is as soon as I hung up my cleats, I was kind of looking for that purpose in my life. Again, like most athletes do once they finish up their athletic career. And, I started doing this and it was truly felt like it was the thing that I was born to do. So I plan on, continuing to write books the rest of my life. I'm 24 years old, so I feel like I've got a long runway of the amount of books and ideas and things I can keep writing about. But yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about NIL and how it's kind of changed college sports a little bit. And also, of course, how it's provided opportunity for athletes to benefit from their name, image, and likeness, their brand, or whatever skills they may have. For example, obviously, you love writing. I'm sure there's other athletes out there that may love art, or they may love music, or they want to get into coaching. There's so many different ways you can use your athlete brand. But talk to me about NIL and if it's something you would have been interested in back in the day.
I
Not to,
mean,
not to say that it was so far back in the day for you. You're only 24.
Yeah, fortunately, it was. It was. I just missed the boat on it as far as my career goes. But I think NIL is a really good thing because I've been, I grew up in California, so grew up around a lot of guys who are, high level recruits. But a lot of these high level recruits are not growing up, in the best situations or, have opportunities to make money. And I mean, even for myself, just having a full ride scholarship wasn't enough, to
Right.
just cover basic needs. So I love the opportunities that the NIL can offer, those kind of athletes that grow up in situations that they may not have, enough money to be able to just put food on the table for themselves, during the summertime or, have clothes on their back and things like that. And definitely something I would have loved to take advantage of, it'd been nice to do it. I was working, 4 jobs while being a student athlete. So it would have been nice to definitely have some NIL money to take some of that burden off of me, but I wouldn't trade where I was at for the world for sure.
Well, no, that makes sense. The other thing I just thought of for you is, possibly turning this into a nil opportunity. If you were to find an athlete specifically in football that maybe had a tougher upbringing or maybe really resonated with your story, paying an athlete nowadays, 250, for a few social media posts, especially for a book, would probably be a really unique opportunity for you to market the book. So,
Oh,
you
for
thought
sure.
about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like I said, I've got a lot of ex teammates and buddies that are in the NFL, NBA, and
Yeah.
doing all those things. So leveraging them to it as well. But that's not a bad idea as well. Getting the college kids involved and those kind of things. So yeah, not a bad
Yeah.
idea.
How have you started to market the book? Obviously, it's one thing to write it, and then you got to get it out there, and you have a publisher and things like that. But talk to me about kind of that process because I think that's one other thing people don't think about.
Oh, for sure. I think, hey, I mean, even me having been an athlete and understanding how you have to market yourself, even just to get recruited and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't think I realized how much truly went into it. But I've been lucky enough, I have a publicist that I work with that really helps me on those side of things. And basically, for the most part, I'm using social media to leverage it, like most people, building connections there. But then also, building the connections and relationships that I've had from sports to, as you said, like market it that way, just kind of naturally, sending it to people that I know within those industries that can share it, because I have a relationship with them and those things. But yeah, for the most part, it's been pretty crazy, like just to see all the response I've gotten. Last week, I became an Amazon bestseller, so like
There you go.
those kind of things, you get to do all those kind of things. But yeah, just all the traditional stuff. But trying to leverage my own past athletic brand as well, to show the world what else I'm working on post career.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Talk to me about your situation right now and maybe the future and what's ahead for you.
Yeah, I mean, right now, like I said, my day job, I'm a journalist, which I love. It fills my heart. Every single day I get to write stories. I pinch myself
Yeah, who
to
are
be
you
able to do that.
writing for? Who are you
I write
writing
for
for?
I cover the stock market and like ETFs and things like that. And I work for a publication called With Intelligence, is the
Okay.
publication I work for now. So, continuing to build my journalism communication career, but then also, build this author career. Like I said, this is what I plan on doing the rest of my life. I've already started on book two, and continuing to get more feedback, from audience, from people who are like actual, fans of the book that are like, we need to know what happens, because the book ends on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
I kind of did that on purpose, obviously to build up that kind of hype as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so probably just continuing what I'm doing for the most part. Like I said, this is a dream for me to get paid to write. You can't beat that in my book.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And then what are you thinking about as far as, you're only 24. Talk to me about you want to obviously be a journalist, you want to continue to write. You'll are you still in California? Where are you today?
I'm actually in Austin, Texas, is where I'm based now.
Okay.
For now, I've kind of lived a nomadic lifestyle. I've lived, I think, in 5 different states now, and I've been to 47. So I kind of like to just keep traveling and trying different places year by year. But right now I'm in Austin. We'll see how long I'm here. But like I said, luckily with my work, I'm able to work remotely and pretty much travel wherever I want to. So yeah.
Yeah. Have laptop will travel, right?
Exactly. That's the benefit of being a writer. You can go anywhere in the world and do it.
Yeah. Where do you find your inspiration, Nick? Like when you're writing these stories, or when again trying to put down words on paper. I know sometimes people will sit there and they'll stare at a blank computer screen and they'll have trouble. Talk to me about where you're finding inspiration, especially as your story now has passed. You know what I mean, and things get a little bit more distant.
For me, I continue to find inspiration on what initially inspired me, to even in football and just in my life growing up, which were all the kind of people I looked up to. Like I said, I grew up in California, so Kobe Bryant was a big source of inspiration for me, and a rapper named Nipsey Hussle, rest in peace, is also a big one, for me. And then Patrick Willis, he was a linebacker for the 49ers, and he inspired me. So whenever I feel those kind of moments, I just kind of go back to those role models that I had growing up in those spaces to continue to motivate me. And obviously, the Mamba mentality, you can watch a Kobe
Yeah.
Bryant video on YouTube and you want to go run through a brick wall, all those things. So that's where I would say a majority of it comes from. And then, just the good people in my life too, that continue to, encourage me to keep chasing after my dreams and supporting me on them.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And you talk about the fans that you've obviously developed with this first book. How can fans get in touch with you or get the book? What's the best way for them to do that?
As far as getting the book, it's available, like I said, on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Google Books, and pretty much anywhere else you can get a book. And then, I'm pretty active on Instagram. It's at Nick Peck Author. Been lucky enough to, like I said, shoot videos on there, keep people updated to what I'm doing, and share, the media appearances I'm making and stuff like that. So, my Instagram is probably the best way, at Nick Peck Author.
Okay, perfect. And then as we kind of wrap up here, Nick, I'd love to hear some advice for you, knowing obviously your story and what you've talked about. And, there's all different types of athletes and families that listen to this podcast. Is there something or a piece of advice that you could pass along to an athlete that you kind of took away from your career?
For sure. This is the advice, I tell anybody in my life, but it's just, don't quit, because life in seasons has so many different, seasons, honestly.
Yeah.
And you never know what's going to come. I think what separates me and other people who get out of situations similar to me, or just, all great people, is that they just didn't quit and kept chasing after those dreams that they want. So that's what I would say, is just don't quit. And then the other thing, just be grateful for where you're at. Be grateful for the journey. Be grateful for where you're at. Don't necessarily chase, the glory and the fame. Chase the having a great journey and being grateful for it. So, don't quit and be grateful. I think that's what I would say.
Those are two good ones. I like it. I like it very much so. Well, I'm certainly grateful for the opportunity to get to know you and obviously what you're doing. Again, as Nick said, available there on Instagram at Nick Peck Author, and then obviously has the website nickpeckauthor.com. You can check out the book, Only Way Out. And Nick, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
No, thank you so much. I truly appreciate the time. I'm super grateful for it.
All right, there you go. I'm Greg Glynn. We're glad you could tune in, and stay pliable, my friends.
Thanks for listening to the Athlete Brand Advisor Podcast. Be sure to check out the show notes from today's episode and catch up on recent episodes at pliablemarketing.com. We also encourage you to share topics and guest ideas by emailing our production staff at pliablemarketing@gmail.com. We love hearing from our loyal listeners and athletes who want to grow their brand. So jump in and be part of the podcast, because that's how we roll.